Can you believe it? Congress may well be ready to get a bipartisan deal on immigration. Long overdue. But there's going to be a lot of political horse trading back and forth over this issue.
That's exactly right. Even though lawmakers from both parties support the bill, there are still serious questions about it, and it may prove to be very difficult to pass. Ephraim Graham has the story.
It's a landmark bill that could put millions on the path to citizenship.
Times change, and the immigration system has to change with those times.
The Senate voted 82-15 to move the legislation forward into debate. But that's only the first of many hurdles. Many of the Republicans who voted yes Tuesday say they won't support the bill in a final vote unless its border security language is strengthened, a position backed up by the GOP leadership in the House.
Especially in the area of border security and internal enforcement of this system, I'm concerned that it doesn't go far enough.
The bill would offer a 13-year path to citizenship for the 11 million immigrants who have overstayed their visas or arrived in the U.S. illegally since the end of 2011. They would be required to pay fines and back taxes, and they couldn't participate in any government social programs during the process.
So this is no cakewalk, but it's the only way we can make sure that everyone who's here is playing by the same rules as ordinary families.
The plan also expands visas for low-skilled workers and entrepreneurs and requires employers to check the legal status of every worker.
A failure to have a rational and positive immigration program will choke this economy. It's not a good idea.
But while many lawmakers seem ready to move forward and begin debating this bipartisan bill, conservative leaders and voters still have objections to the measure, which makes it politically difficult for Republicans in Congress. It is still unclear if it will pass in the House. But the bill could be President Obama's big second-term accomplishment, and many Republicans hope it will help them improve their image with Latino voters. Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
It was interesting that Virginia Senator Tim Kaine, Democrat, made a speech in Spanish on the floor. Very interesting. But it just looks as if they've got to get something done. There's some thought that bringing these people in as citizens might not be the greatest idea, because that gives them, in a sense, governmental authority. They can, change the structure of our government, and if they don't have a vote, they could still have all the privileges of citizenship without being full citizens, and then their children would be citizens when they get to the age of voting at 18 or whatever number there is. But it just seems like the Republicans would be insane to knock this thing down. It would just be so foolish politically, and I think they all realize that the Hispanic population is so large in this country that they have to do something. If they appear to be anti-immigrant, anti-Hispanic, they're going to lose every election they come up with. And so it's going to have to pass. They'll tinker with it a little bit, a little cut here, snip here, but the bill's going to pass because there's too much support for it otherwise. But while the Senate focuses on immigration, the case against the government's surveillance program is going to court. Lee Webb has that story from the CBN Newsroom.
Pat, the American Civil Liberties Union is suing the Obama administration over the NSA's program of collecting phone and internet records. The ACLU is demanding that the administration end the program and purge all records collected. Tuesday, intelligence officials tried to soothe Congress in an extended briefing. FBI, Justice Department, and other intelligence officials testified that the programs are necessary to protect America and do not violate privacy rights. But legislators still are worried about the invasion of privacy, and they believe the courts and Congress should have greater oversight. On CBN's Newswatch program, Regent University's Paul Bonicelli said the programs are hurting the U.S. internationally.
There are a lot of countries that have strong civil liberties protections, Bill of Rights issues, and they don't like the hypocrisy above all. They know that the United States is a place that receives asylum seekers. We always talk about protecting people's rights with the Bill of Rights, and yet we look like we're doing exactly what we condemn other countries for.
Here's something interesting, too. The surveillance scandal has helped the sales of a classic novel about big government. George Orwell's 1984 has shot up the sales charts at Amazon.com. The book, of course, tells the story of a totalitarian government led by a man called Big Brother. The theme of the book, government keeps an eye on everyone. House Speaker John Boehner does not buy President Obama's timeline on the IRS scandal. The president has said that he first heard about the agency's targeting of conservative groups by watching news reports on May 10th. That's the day the story broke. Boehner says that's inconceivable.
It's based on the fact that many of his senior staff knew about it and have known about it for some time. I know how I operate with my senior staff. I meet with them every morning. It would be inconceivable in my operation that my staff would know it and I wouldn't. It just doesn't pass the straight face test.
According to the Inspector General's report, conservative groups are targeted during the 2010 and 2012 elections. Half of the public believes White House officials knew what the IRS is doing, according to a Gallup poll, and 58% disapprove of the way President Obama has handled the IRS situation. The State Department is fighting new allegations that it covered up a sex scandal during Hillary Clinton's tenure as Secretary of State. A former State Department investigator leaked an internal memo blaming senior officials for interfering in the investigations. One allegation says a U.S. ambassador often ditched his security detail to solicit sexual favors in a park near the embassy. The memo also alleges 3 of Clinton's security agents solicited prostitutes while on official trips.
Of course, take every allegation of misconduct seriously, and we investigate them thoroughly.
The State Department argues the cases were all investigated and the agents were cleared or punished. Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz says too much government red tape is hurting our economy. Cruz says Washington needs to cut back on the number of regulations, and he says they're hurting small businesses the most. When you're putting nearly $11,000, he says, per employee in regulatory burden on brand new startups, that has a predictable impact of killing innovation, killing entrepreneurship, and killing jobs. At least 4 major fires are blazing across Colorado. The worst is in the Black Forest area near Colorado Springs. Thousands of people have been forced to evacuate, and as many as 60 homes and buildings are damaged or destroyed.
Our mandatory evacuation area is about 24,000 acres. Right now we're estimating the fire to have consumed somewhere between 7,500 and 8,000 acres. It's affected a population of 5,469.
They had the road blocked off, they wouldn't let us in. And finally I persuaded them to let me go in and get our dogs.
Dry, windy conditions are fueling that blaze. Officials estimate the Black Forest in Colorado, that fire there has already burned around 8,000 acres. It's 0% contained, we're told. New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg is defending his soda ban in court. A state appeals court is considering whether to allow New York City to ban oversized sodas and other large sugary drinks at city restaurants. A state court judge barred the city from enacting that ban 3 months ago. It ruled there were too many loopholes that would undermine the health benefits. Critics call the ban government overreach, but the Bloomberg administration is racing ahead, trying to get the first judge's ruling overturned before the mayor's final term ends in less than 6 months. Pat?
Bloomberg is so rich. He is absolutely loaded in the $7 or $8 billion range or more. Wow. He's very, very wealthy, and the value of his holdings have gone up. The Bloomberg terminals are a must for every trader on Wall Street, and he's made a fortune with them. But why he's on this kick about sodas? I mean, if people want big sodas, that's their business. It's ridiculous.
President Obama has issued his annual proclamation for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender Pride Month. The president says this month is about, quote, making our country a more perfect union. He reminds Americans that he overturned the military's Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, and he led a global campaign to create the only United Nations resolution that protects sexual orientation. Bill Clinton was the first U.S. president to declare Gay Pride Month back in 2000. President Obama picked up the practice again in 2009. The U.S. Supreme Court has refused to hear a free speech case dealing with graphic abortion images. A Colorado ruling blocked abortion protesters from displaying images of aborted fetuses near a church where they might upset children. That ruling now stands. The case stems from a 2005 protest near an outdoor service at an Episcopal church that's accused of supporting abortion. A judge later barred protesters from displaying the gruesome images. An appeals court later upheld that order, saying it only applied to the church and the protesters and could not be applied generally. But some experts say it eats away at freedom of speech. You can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.